Blissful Aloneness and Howling Nostalgia of Hidden Dimensions. I would like to begin this episode by sharing a quote from a very important individual in Indian mysticism by the name of Rishi Vyasa. Rishi Vyasa says, "No one belongs to me, I belong to no one. There is no I or mine. All is blissful aloneness." The subtitle, I have written, "Looking into your stare." There was something I realized today. I noticed that I pretty much found a way to talk about it. For some time, I have been fascinated with the mind and the type of content it has access to. And I noticed that there's moments in life where a person may stare in the outer realms, but they're actually staring at an inner realm event. Sometimes concentration in the outer realms means, in some sense, life is moving in the inner realms. The nostalgia, or the howling nostalgia of hidden dimensions. There has been moments that I would guess the word for it would be liminal. Limin, IAL. It's in some sense the unacknowledged moments of reality where in some sense there's a type of atmosphere where one is witnessing the rare or the uncommon. And when I say howling nostalgia, you see our minds, I personally consider that the mind of the human being has such a capability that the fact that we have remained human, or we're using the human idea, that's kind of like the mind being generous. The story of human life is like animals waking up to how they were never animals. There's certain moments in life that remind a person of something, right? But there's certain moments in life, especially for those who entertain a transcendentalist perspective, it's like the familiarity of another dimension, or a familiarity of a previous dimension, or even you can say hidden dimension, is like light, pure, in some sense coming through the cracks of where the person is. It's as if it's like the glow of another moment. I'm trying to share, pretty much give words to an emotion I have felt, moments that have nothing to do with, in some sense, how the past has happened or how the future happened, just ways that the present exists, which in a context of unknown rather than known, a sort of mystery. It's as if there's an aura to things that have mysterious value, you know? Excuse me. Honestly, guys, it's been a couple of days where I've noticed a shift in my own mindset. It's as if, or let me just, rather than going into myself, I'll go into this episode's title. Imagine like it's late at night, you're smoking on a dark pitch black, let's say, balcony, and you are seeing only the light of a street lamp, right? It's as if for a second the mind gets the, you can say poetically, the nostalgia of like the sun in the darkness of the cosmos, you know? I'm listening to this song in the background, and it's like I'm exploring the jungle of another planet, you know what I mean? Soundtrack to that. It's as if between the war, let's say between the endless battle of chaos and order, there's moments in between that are neither chaotic, neither ordered, you know. I was thinking about, before giving this episode, I was thinking about the idea of original sin. And I was thinking about the idea of death being in some sense the result of a sin. I don't know how to say it. Pretty much it's this idea that there is secret moments to reality. There is hidden moments. There's moments that are kind of like doors that are halfway open. And the person sees a little bit of the unknown, but they don't completely see the unknown. Right? We have so many different types of human beings with different DNA, technically different brains, and in some sense, how many different kinds of universes are human beings walking through their brain, and in some sense, how much of a mystery is there beyond our own self-simulation of reality. You know what's strange? Regardless of whatever ideological meaning or truth somebody finds, reality is still a sequence of actions. It is an event. You know, it's kind of strange that we are born from the unknown. That means it's like nobody knows pretty much how, let me say it just in regards to the context of modernity, we don't know where we were before we were born, and we don't know where we will be after we die, right? And so there's this there's this opportunity, this bell curve opportunity in life. Now, the remarkable thing about life is it's kind of like an escalator or a treadmill where even if a person does nothing, the day goes forth and the moment in some sense takes its shape. You know, it's like an endless, it's like an infinite. It's honestly like we're swimming through geometry as geometry. There is something about the unknown where it could be so intense that the person shifts out of their memory. If somebody says Mr. Within, What would a creature with a memory look like? I'll be like, look in the mirror. What would a creature without memory look like? I would be in some sense wonder about who's looking. In this episode, I started with Blissful Aloneness in the title, and then I said Howling Nostalgia of Hidden Dimensions. The Blissful Aloneness is not a cultural one. It's not for a cultural entity. It's the blissful aloneness of consciousness, realizing that its origin is instantaneously being. You know, it's as if the hero's journey, as described by Joseph Campbell. Let me see if I can find an infographic. The hero's journey is happening, but on a mental level for the modern hero. I'll explain this. The hero's journey, guys, is something very important if you want to be a writer of any kind or tell stories of any kind. It's Joseph Campbell's contribution. As soon as I find it, oh my god. Okay, so whoever's listening, I need you to look at the screen. This is the hero's journey, pretty much. You know, where the person is in the known dimension of reality, there's a call to adventure, there's some sort of aid, right? The person comes to the unknown. There's a helper, mentor in the unknown, and then the person goes through like some sort of full confrontation of chaos and rebirth, right? There's a transformation, there's a balance restored, and then from the unknown comes back to the known, right? My view is pretty much that this is flipped around, right? That we start from the unknown and then we go to the known, you know? Because we think we're known first, we fear the unknown. But if we thought we're unknown first, knowledge would in some sense be an endless exploration of like how would I say it, like an unknown viewer. What I'm trying to get to, guys, is that the blissful aloneness is a sort of return of a conditional known entity into an unconditional unknown state of being, which technically means whether it's enlightenment or death, when it's like you know, eternity or death, it's as if it's we on some level journey beyond the constructs we have held. You know what's funny? It's like on some level we're living in houses, but at the same time we're living in the experience of existence like a house. The blissful aloneness is in some sense how Behind one's eyes, one has to come to terms and content with the nature of their being. Pretty much the two questions to ask: what is my body doing, and how is my mind being? To discover one's nature of being, one has to first consider how can they go about getting a result. It's as if, how do we get rid of the observer effect? Let's say you're a yogi or mystic and you're looking for truth, and you've heard of this idea in quantum physics, the observer effect, which those watching observing the event influence the event. So it's as if the person's like, wait a minute, if I search for truth, I may never find it because my mind's inputting its own truth first. But what if the person's like, okay, what if I don't do anything? What if the simulation is based on action? What if we listen to the Tao Te Ching and go through a state of action through inaction? It's another way of saying a person sitting down for 10 to 20 minutes in stillness and silence, and they are not putting an effort, and they're watching. Just like you watch a film, you begin to watch your moment. As you watch your moment, eventually the attention comes to terms with how a part of how it's being is undefinable. The inconceivability of the witness, right? Earlier I was saying the idea of original sin, and how I was thinking man is death because we made a mistake and we have to now die to ourselves. Like, what sort of algorithm in nature needs to create a temporary creature just for the temporary creature to in some sense break down? You know, it's as if this cosmos is made for giants, but we are like, you know, stranded on a pebble in a light beam. You know, it's like, I experienced this at a gas station once, where I was filling the car with gas and I was just waiting, and I was just staring into the distance, and for a moment I had this feeling, what if my eyes have never gone anywhere? What if there's a presence or attention that cannot move because it's being the space where movement is happening? Right? There's so many mysteries surrounding our existence, or the way we experience our existence, that no story or photograph of truth is going to suffice. You know, it's like in a changing world, the truth has to be through change. You know? This is something when I remember I was looking at the concept of yoga early on in my life, I was like, okay, what am I looking at? And I thought, like, okay, the human being has these desires, has sort of inefficiencies and imperfections, and pretty much there's this approach to meditation where the person is trying to put down their idea of the sense of self, like they're trying to, like, just like you would, let's say, take off a hat from your head and put it on the table. The person is trying to take the idea of who they are off from their attention, just to present it into the moment, just place it in the moment. It's as if, you know, the question of why there is a need for some sort of enlightenment. Why is there even a need for pinpointing manifestation linguistically, right? It's like, it's so bizarre, existence. And instead of the species being honest and properly freaking out and then consciously responding to how it's freaking out, right? The species cowers away into its memory, right? That means it's as if like a sort of inner flight. I would say a sort of enlightenment would be a person realizing that their memories are separate to them. That's how they remember it, right? Anybody who says my memories, you can't own a memory. To own a memory is like a person saying I own what I see. It's like there's no owner. You know, the idea behind life is that something will happen. And the only question is the species going to consciously experience change or unconsciously experience change? Alan Watts has a quote where he says, imagine going to sleep and never waking up. And now imagine waking up having never been asleep. Like, just take that in. It's so strange. We live as if we are what we are, but the whole universe is happening at once. There is a hidden nostalgia. There's emotions that our species has not even named. There's states of mind where in the future we need advanced communicators to go and in some sense scan, research, and bring back to the tribe, you know. My vision is that we were hunter-gatherers of the body, when, like, physically we were hunter-gatherers in our evolutionary collective psychology. And now we have become hunter-gatherers of the mind. Every human being is tasked with understanding their world and, in some sense, bringing its fruits for the species. Imagine 8 billion advanced communicators building an advanced civilization. Now imagine a world that has accepted its defeat too soon. Which one is more appealing? To see what we can be, or to, in some sense, forget our eyes? Which one? You know, there's times, I remember, guys, I'll share something, one of my favorite shows, you know, even though not all parts of the show are my favorite, but one of the coolest shows I've seen is Rick and Morty. And there was this mind-blowing episode where okay, I think I remember exactly. Pretty much it's this event where Rick and Morty, like Rick is lost in his parallel selves, right? He's lost in a life that is not his. And then he, in some sense, suddenly wakes up from that life. And then wakes up into another artificial reality or another artificial reality until he wakes up to the actual reality. This nostalgia of hidden dimensions, it's as if like the feeling one would have if their consciousness was in an artificial reality when it knew it existed in a real reality. There's a strange feeling that for the body this world is real, but for the mind it is a simulation. Because the nature of our instruments of perception are simulated, right? It's not a person who wakes up from the beginning of the day having in all the time this idea that I am this self, right? You know, we have been conditioned into replacing the idea of who we are with language. Every person is present and aware before they even learn language. That means there's ways, whoever you're listening to me, there's ways you know how to be that have nothing to do with the story your mind has adopted for reality. Right? Now, the feeling is at the same time that we have this concept of the mind and we have the concept of sight, as if sight through the mind, through the intellect. There's also sight through the heart. In certain ancient stories, there's this idea that the heart of the person has gates of wisdom. And when you open these gates from the heart, it's as if like an incredible instantaneous knowing occurs, right? And it was this pretty much this idea you can see through your mind, or you can see through the brain, or you can see through the heart. Okay. Now, the heart is a metaphor of something that prior to the intellect's analysis or ability to analyze, it's as if before the first language the human child began speaking was in some sense physical, pain and pleasure, and then emotions. You know, I would tell you, it's like sometimes I think is impatience like when a human being is impatient, could that be similar to like when somebody like the temperature of a room rises, a person becomes impatient and takes off their jacket, right? It's like a lot of emotions I think go back to how we as creatures experience temperature. Hunter-gatherers of the species, hunter-gatherers of the mind of the species. Right now we're living as minds, moving bodies, but before we used to be bodies that only had the potential to be minds. world we live in and the worlds that live in us. Anyways, guys, I'll continue. Please be considerate. I am not someone speaking in a way where in any case, I have never asked anybody, to, in some sense, like, I don't believe in this archetype of, like, teacher-student. To me, I'm just this guy saying that there's a species in the void, and the species should implement a great strategy. The psychology of the human being in modern society, there's a spectrum of ways where it's occurring, and the title of this episode is suggesting 2 points of it. Moments of blissful aloneness, where the person doesn't just have a relationship with others in the world, and they don't just have a relationship with themselves, but it's in some sense the relationship of how the world is being them. Right? When you understand this, appreciate this, reality becomes completely different. I am not someone who I would say I have found, the secret to everybody's life. Like, there's no such thing. We're all such different pilots, and our journeys and destinations are different. And it's as if this earth is an airport where many great pilots from the cosmos have arrived. Right, and in some sense, to me, I'm just that person saying, hey, unknown consciousness manifests through human form. Why not attempt the greatest of the greatest? Why not think for a second that our past is a tool rather than that which is defining us? It's as if a species managed to use the inefficiency of its past to, in some sense, leap into the efficiency of the future. When a human being speaks, guys, it's as if, like, what else can happen? Inner realms are poured into the outer realms. Guys, I'm writing something in the chat section. It's a cool sentence. It's, you must learn to accept simplicity. The complexity comes automatically. That's it, guys. At the end of the day, we are the poetry of our own lifetime, And the species is the poetry of lifetimes to come. We're not machines that could be perfect all the time. We are the post-laughter of our own failures. Emotions are fascinating because they intensify thoughts. enough duality and right and wrong becoming its own inquisition. It's a multi-dimensional world. It's like a garden with many flowers and many different things happen. You know, I would like to go into a poetry tunnel, and what I mean by this is that a part of these episodes I read poems I wrote from years ago. I don't know why, but I feel like, maybe I should read some. There's a poetry book I wrote in, 2016, called Endless Roads. I'm just gonna read, random poems from it. I'll read the first one. Your divine remembrance. Who seeks the truth when the truth seeker has become emptiness on a rock in emptiness? We all want doors that revolve around us. Why are the broken trying to fix up all that they see? Life has brought us to our end so we can comprehend our beginning. Sometimes words write themselves into worlds more transcendent than names. Have you realized you are your divine remembrance? Or have you realized you are your divine remembrance? The next poem is the 17th poem. It's called Philosophizing Sheep. Once a sheep began speaking about philosophy with the shepherd. The first question was, "Are you sleeping?" The shepherd responded, "No," or instead of me, you'll be talking to a wolf. The second question was, "Who is counting?" The shepherd responded, "The self of selves, that is the I thought we call God's focus." After that, the sheep had no questions that the answer could come from without. The next poem, 18th, it has a good title, I'll read it. It's called Advanced Monkeys. When advanced monkeys write, does the river of God smile at every drop carried? Yes, 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 and yes to the no. Behind our eyes, heaven has always spoken to earth. Whoever you are, you must care for the life that has come to be. Do you see the great gathering, kept by invisible strings, of all the elements that have become you? The personality of God is an omniscient truth. No man needs to be denied a woman of truth. Love speaks louder than commands. Beyond control, always kiss her hand. This next poem I've written is called The Mother Bear. The blessing of the divine is a focus that normality can only appreciate when insanity is caressed. I thought love was something to have, but I have come to realize it must be held. Who is so brave to kiss a bear on the forehead while in hibernation? Of course, the beauty of God works like this. The mother bear could never be scared of her own creation. I'm going to read another one called Giggles of Non-Existence. Once upon a time, there was no time and no story space could hold. Do you hear non-existence giggling in the ear of the cosmos? Many sages have come and gone within their eternity. Should we seek a heaven or hell or walk in between? As lovers die in arms that put down all weapons, the joy of peace is how trust in the moment's love are your brightest escape route. Escape from where? I don't know. These are just lines on paper. This next poem is called The Only Manifest Glow. Give your light to all you can see, just like the center of the only manifest glow. Love is wise, for finding fault is the work of the past. The serenity of reality is a calculation beyond dominion. The ego is a net that must be torn or thrown away by clarity's hand. Honesty does not lie to other or self. What is free and beyond form? If you know, the moment changes. Love your whole. W.H. Anyways, guys, back to the title of the episode. Let me try to wrap this up somehow. Blissful Aloneness and Howling, Nostalgia of Hidden Dimensions. Like, in reality, what I'm trying to say, it's like after we realize, like, the species has a role of hunting and gathering new experiences of information and relaying it. It's like all archetypes active are reverting into an explorer's archetype. It's pretty much, I'm saying that there's states that 8 billion minds must explore. Looking into your stare, I think those people who speak about past lives, my own experience is different. I don't believe that there is a past life in the sense that I believe what we are is like the tip of the iceberg. So the tip of the iceberg doesn't have a past life, technically. Or even if we see a past life to the tip of the iceberg, it's as if it's not complete. You know, there's moments in life where a person looks at this and says, "O infinite journey of manifestation, how will you guide the human being?" And there's moments where we are left as silent witnesses, waiting for the moment where time isn't time anymore. And so, to bypass our individual misery, we must care for a greater collective vision. A greater collective vision is like global healing. A species that decides to be advanced. So many people talk about responsibility. What about global responsibility? What about the need for institutions to, in some sense, stop behaving like egoic entities? You know, it's as if when will a species acknowledge itself on this rock? You There's sometimes I think about, let's give it 1,000 years or something. What would, that globalized future look like? And what I see is massive archives, like what's going to become more fascinating than starting a small business is like everybody's going to have research companies. I've written something, guys. I wrote this a while ago, but I'll read it. Language exists to reflect experiential reality. The Buddha said the nature of objects is emptiness. Modern human beings are realizing subjects can be empty as well. All spiritual realization seems to be leading to the source of the unknown, and the Upanishads, it beautifully states, the seer of the seen is unseen. When human beings realize they are an unknown attention looking out through the eyes of a noble world with unknown edges, and somehow establish contentment with allowing the unknown to be unknown, a true inner freedom of mankind occurs. The love for the future liberates the misery of the past. It's like everybody has been waiting for truth, only to notice truth is how we will be it. An enlightened being would not have the concept of enlightenment. An ultimate being would not have the concept of the ultimate. It is pre-reason. Humanity is a phase in nature in which unknown selves through known bodies are realizing unknown worlds beyond linguistic worlds that they self-simulate and overlay on matter. We are all alive at that point in history where we all think we have minds, but we don't know what the mind is. Where we are convinced by actualized failures more than future potential victories. The ultimate task of human beings is to become the eyes of the realm and bringers of the future. When the present becomes the guardian angel of the future, the past has already entered paradise. I'm going to go into a cold tunnel of nostalgia right now. Florence King says, true nostalgia is an ephemeral composition of disjointed memories. Albert Camus says every act of rebellion expresses a nostalgia for innocence and an appeal to the essence of being. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin says a sense of the universe, a sense of the all, the nostalgia which seizes us when confronted by nature, beauty, music. There seems to be an expectation and an awareness of a great presence. There we go. That's it. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. Frank Zappa says it isn't necessary to imagine the world ending in fire or ice. There are two other possibilities. One is paperwork and the other is nostalgia. Lou Reed says, I don't like nostalgia unless it's mine. Olga Kurilenko says music evokes so many feelings in us, memories, nostalgia, things that are connected to our past. Robert Morgan says distance not only gives nostalgia but perspective and maybe objectivity. Hunter S. Thompson says, I am not a yachting person by nature, but I have just enough experience on the sea under sail to feel a certain nostalgia for it. When I see a big white racing yacht heeled over at cruising speed on the ocean, I can still tie a mean bowline knot on just about anything in less than 10 seconds. Okay. James Wolcott says everyone is entitled to his own nostalgia. Lana Del Rey says fashion is inspired by youth and nostalgia and draws inspiration from the best of the past. Sarah Paulson says, looking back is a way to sharpen the focus on the things you want to change in your life. I think there's something about nostalgia that really puts a fine point on the here and now, and that can be incredibly fascinating and interesting and engaging for the mind. A man by the name of Gulzar says, nostalgia is a sweet place for a poet and writer to be in, but it's an indulgence, a distraction. You can't live in a distraction. Yeah, this is why it's like uncharted territory. We just get to see what else is there, and then the decision of where the attention wants to pilot to is still there. There's a quote by Rishi Vyasa where he says, fate and free will are equally powerful forces, but I consider free will to be more important, as it is your free will that determines your fate. Whether you are trying to go into a state originally based on how the mind began or originally based on how the body began, I think the wisdom of the neo-modern man would be, in some sense, the neo-modern mankind would be this view that we're like, okay, rather than the species getting convinced or identifying with the content it sees, the species identifying with the content of its perception, it begins to study how perception rises and falls. You know? It's like I feel like there should be this great global research project where every human being's trying to, in some sense, we build a network where the greatest ideas can be found in the most important moments, in the most important places. The great performance of 8 billion minds, challenged by time. Time is like, time and history, or the future generations. It's as if really it's a performance, the lifetime. Individual consciousness, it's like a known conscious individual, a known individual consciousness is performing within a sort of unknown collective awareness. To be free before we cannot be. I think that is blissful aloneness. That is a good way to say it. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I apologize for any inconveniences. And keep in mind, I'm 1 in 8 billion people in a world where there's more galaxies than people. Is so vast that no man can claim truth and unchanging it. We are all just explorers of, the opportunity that 4.5 million years of evolution has given us. Much blessings and namaste. Thank you for listening.